Hi, everybody. Dan Illman, Ashley Mailloux, taking a look at the co-feature on Sunday at Mountaineer Park. It's West Virginia Derby Day, and race number 7 is the Grade 3 West Virginia Governor's Cup. Let's take a look at this field of older horses getting set to go a mile and a 16th. Eighth entered, Brad Cox has the favorite in the West Virginia Derby. He has the morning line favorite in the Governor's Cup, and that's the number 8, Hit Show, who is making only his third start of the year. A little bit of a disappointing performance, however, last time out at Prairie Meadows.
Yeah, it's certainly disappointing. Obviously, went off favorite in the eyes of the betting public, but never really got running. It looked like he was sort of under a ride early in the race and just never was able to make an impact. I thought his return to the races off the extended layoff was a very good one. And maybe there's always the conversation: do you regress or do you take a step forward? Maybe he was in the camp of that he regressed there, but I think this is a good spot for him to regroup. And I think on paper, maybe there's one or other two horses that could, pressure him in here, but he does look very, very tough.
It looks like he might get a good pace setup as well. Here's the Timeform US pace projector. Extra Anejo figures to show speed from the inside. The number 4, Komorabino Omoide, should also show speed. And Play Chicken is a horse that has shown big early speed against weaker competition. So there's a chance this pace heats up. That helps a horse like Hit Show. That helps a horse like the 6, Roses Pepino, who's going to be a giant price.
A giant price and really needs that pace to unfold in front of him. But hey, he's been able to close in his last two, especially last time out, and the pace wasn't all that hot, but it was up the Finger Lakes. So getting back to Mountaineer, I think from here the pace is going to be honest in this event. We've talked about a couple of horses being forward, and you cannot overlook the 4's last dirt effort, even two starts back on the dirt. I mean, this horse has been very forward in some very quick races.
It seems that just as when Steve Asmussen gets Extra Anejo going, a layoff sort of puts him back to square one. He won his career debut in really good form with a 92 buyer. Then he went to the sidelines. He only raced 3 times at 3. One was a solid effort and only his 4th lifetime start, finishing 4th in the Haskell. Then another long layoff. He looked good in his 4-year-old debut. I think you can give him an excuse last time out because he just sort of got cooked on the lead.
Yeah, he did get cooked on the lead, and it's interesting to look at it though when it was all said and done. I think too part of it is there's a little bit more pressure. I think he was a little bit more keen, even in comparison to his race two back going 7 ace. The big thing with him, I feel like he's had a good race and then he follows it up with maybe a so-so race and vice versa. But I do think there's some upside third start off the layoff for him. I thought his return was very impressive. And I don't mind him finally getting back around 2 turns. When you look at those last two efforts, obviously both 1 turn efforts, I think he's going to benefit from the additional turn.
Heroic Move is the number 2. We're going to go back to his race 2 starts back. This is the Steve Sexton Mile at Lone Star Park, and Heroic Move finally got a graded stakes victory. He swings to the outside, and he shows off his stamina in the last 3/16 by grinding down these 2 horses up front, including odds-on favorite Touch Upon a Star. I talked to Robertino Diodoro earlier today about his subsequent race, the Cornhusker Handicap. He was very disappointed. He said no excuses. He does feel the pace could set up well for this horse.
And I think when you look at the Cornhusker as a whole, pretty deep grade three event overall in comparison to what he's going to face here. He's going to get some local runners. And I think from a shipping perspective, anything close to the race that we showed at Lone Star, he could be very, very tough, especially if that speed unfolds in front of him. He's another one that you can see. He wins, he has an okay performance, he gets the minors and back and forth. And that's sort of been the story, at least for him in 2024 now. But I do wonder if he's going to be able to make a run like he did at Lone Star, because we talked about those horses being towards the front. He was able to get to them in those final jumps.
One of the local hopes in here is the 3 Discretionary Day, coming off a gate to wire performance, but in a conditioned claiming race going 3/4 of a mile, an off turf race to boot. Not sure Discretionary Day is fast enough to get to the lead, and I'm not sure how he classes up with these horses.
I'm not sure either. Obviously, the last effort was over the mud. It was sprinting. Now he has to stretch back out in distance. And I don't think it bodes well for him, at least from the standpoint of the last time he went a mile or more on the dirt at Mountaineer. Play Chicken was almost 11 lengths in front of him. He's going to have to face that rival again. So a little tough for me to make a case for him when his stablemate has finished in front.
Here's a fascinating entrant, the number 4, Como Rabino Omoide. This is a horse who started 3 times as a 2-year-old. He's a Japanese bred by California Chrome, who's raced exclusively in North America. Didn't do much Last year, as a 3-year-old, Diodoro told me this horse really grew up physically. Mentally, he's not completely there yet, he said, but he sure looked good winning this race at Lone Star. A non-winners of 3 Life event 2 starts back. He went to the front and he never gave this field a chance. He extends the margin, wins by almost 14, and most importantly, perhaps from a handicapping standpoint, he popped a 103 buyer.
That certainly is what stands out. You look at that first, and then you look at how easy he wins, and he just pours it on here. A very impressive performance. And I feel like when he's been good, his wins have been massive. He's won by open lengths in each of his 3 career wins. And, the other thing, too, is 2 of his wins have been at the 6 furlong distance. At least at Lone Star, he finally got to go long again. His only other time going long on the dirt was over a sloppy racetrack. And he seemed like he chased the pace. He had a ton of trouble in there and just kind of backed out and said he was done for the day. So interesting to see him. That win, though, was against non-winners of 3 Life. He's never been really tested. I will say he followed it up with a pretty good third on the grass, considering it was his first time on the grass. And I don't know necessarily from a pedigree perspective if I thought grass was the right move for him.
It was an interesting spot to be sure. Now he's back on the dirt. Teodoro does say he's a little bit immature and sometimes he pulls hard. He's cutting the blinkers back ever so slightly just to try to get him to relax in this race. He'll be forwardly placed. The 5 is Tembo. This horse is shipping in from Southern California where he was competing in claiming races and he wasn't having a lot of success in those races. So this is kind of an interesting spot off a 2-month layoff.
Yeah, tough to say. I mean, these connections do get a lot of horses from out west, whether it be California or Arizona, and they do well with them. But to me, this feels like a lot too soon. And a horse that his most recent win came at the $10,000 claiming level. It'd be different if he was in tougher spots, maybe in California. It can maybe map a path where he gets bigger than a share here. But I have a tough time seeing that.
The Six Roses Pepino is an honest New York bred. He's won a third of his 27 lifetime starts. Interestingly enough, he has the fastest time form U.S. late pace rating, and he's coming into this race in good form after kicking down a field of state-bred allowance horses at Finger Lakes. This is a big step up in class, his first ever stakes race.
Yeah, huge step up in class. And you go down the page and see some horses that he faced even at Mountaineer that are all right. O'Connor Sunset's been a decent horse, especially at the allowance ranks. But this is a horse prior you could have claimed for 4,000, and he's certainly been shown that he's worth more than that, especially with his wins as of late. One of them being at Finger Lakes. I just don't see a situation where the speed is going to come back to him. He's a deep closer, and I think the horses on here that are forward, they've proven themselves to be competitive at a higher level, and that they can continue to go while on front.
The 7 Play Chicken's one of those Southern California imports to West Virginia that you mentioned, trained by Silva. And he only won his first 5 starts at Mountaineer by a combined a zillion lengths before they tried him on turf last time out. And maybe that's just not his surface. So he loves life on dirt at Mountaineer, as evidenced by this race. Now, again, this is a $4,000 starter allowance washed off of the turf on a very sloppy track, but you just don't win as easy as this. Whether he can do this against better horses in a faster pace scenario, who knows? He's going to be a huge price.
And he's one of 3 in here for the connections, right? For Juan Pablo Silva. And I think out of the 3, he's certainly the best of the 3 with the way that he's just crushed his competition. But you said it's at that level. What will he do now? He's 5 for 5 at Mountaineer. I will say in those last 2 dirt races, he's been very sharp out of the gate. I still don't think he's necessarily the fastest horse here on paper, but I do think with that sharpness and that tactical sort of early foot of his, he's going to be forward. We saw that he should be pretty forward in the pace projections, and I think for the connections, their best shot.
Hit Show is the number 8, and in some ways, he is the horse to beat. He really began his 3-year-old campaign in super form for Brad Cox, winning the Withers, just missing in the Wood Memorial, and then he's thrown to the Wolves in 2 legs of the Triple Crown and the Jim Dandy. Maybe the Oklahoma Derby was 1 race too many after that grinding Triple Crown trail. I liked the way he came back off of the layoff. His Cornhusker was not good, but in Mountaineer Park, you can run with Lasix, and maybe that's what makes this spot so appealing for Hit Show.
Yeah, and it's tough when you look at the Cornhusker in terms of Red Route 1. We know his move. He closes from off of it. Unload was the pace setter, was good enough to hang on for second. And Velociter was third, but disqualified, right? It was a sort of a trip where the horse was mid-pack. So to me, the race played out fair. He's one that just bounced in that race, and we talked about maybe it was just such a good effort off the long layoff that he took a step back. Could he certainly regroup here? I think so, and I think this is a great spot where they're still getting a Grade 3 race, but he's getting a lot of local horses. To me, on the outside, he's probably the horse to beat.
Let's take a look at our top selections for the West Virginia Governor's Stakes. We're both going to go with Hit Show, hoping he can rebound to his form from last year and even his race 2 starts back. I think this race will set up very well for him from a pace standpoint.
Absolutely. I think the pace is going to be perfect for him. I think we've seen even in that win at Churchill that he can be a little bit more forward. So I think he's going to have no issues. I like that he's drawn to the outside in here. And, outside of him, I think we have the same idea, a little bit of a different order. I think those are the three logicals to use underneath.
8142 for Ashley, 8412 for me. It's race 7 at Mountaineer on West Virginia Derby Sunday, the West Virginia Governor's Cup. Best of luck.